All right, we're going to start the bouncy letter animation by choosing a flash file ActionScript 2.0, and we're going to set the frame rate at 30 frames per second. That way it runs a little bit smoother than some of our previous animations. So what I'd like you to do is pick a word. It can be your first name, it can be Bobcats, not SFMS, that's not enough letters. And you'll be able to choose a font and a color. And I'm going to go ahead and choose a nice purple color, and I'll type in my first name. I already picked a font that I like. If you don't have the same font as me, that's fine. Just pick one that you do like, and know that the thicker fonts work better than the thinner ones. Now, you notice that I used the free transform tool to make mine a little wider than they originally were so that they fit the width of the stage. Go ahead and do that, and then use your align panel to align them horizontally. Now, you're going to want to use your rulers so that you can get a guide. Go ahead and go to View Rulers. It's going to show them. In that top ruler, you can click and drag, and we're going to drag a ruler that goes, if we divided this into 2/3, it's going to be about 2/3 of the way down, excuse me, down the stage. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the arrows on my keyboard to bump my name down to the bottom. Now, what we need to do next is we actually need to make each one of the letters in this name or in this word its own symbol. So we're going to need to break it apart. Use Command B to break it apart, just like you broke an object apart into a shape. If you did Command B twice on text, it would make that a shape as well. Now it's just all each individual text boxes. So one at a time, we will go and convert to a symbol. I go ahead and I name each letter, or each one, the letter that it is. If I have duplicates, I would put a K-2 or whatever. It's going to be a movie clip, and unlike our previous ones where our registration point has been in the center, we now want it in the bottom row in the center one, because it's going to flip around this registration point. So I'm going to go ahead and pause so that you and I can finish converting the rest of our letters to symbols, to movie clips with that low center registration point. Okay, now we can see that all of my letters have been turned into symbols. They're here in the library. And now remember that when we apply any sort of motion, tween, or shape tween or whatever, they all have to be on their own separate layer in order for it to work. So I'm going to select this keyframe here. It's going to select all those letters, and then I can control click on any of those letters and choose distribute to layers. Now each of those layers is named after the movie clip that's in it, and I can go ahead and delete that layer 1 because now there's an empty keyframe, meaning that there's nothing there. Now, I'll start with my first letter. And what I want to do is I actually want to insert a keyframe into frame 31. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want my position where my letters are right now to be the same in this frame. Okay? So now I'm going to move back to the beginning, and I'm going to create a motion tween by doing a control create motion tween. Remember, you can control click on the letter as well. And then I'm going to go to frame 30 right before that keyframe, and I'm going to insert a keyframe there. Now, going back to number 1, I'm going to click on that letter, and I am going to, actually I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see more of my offstage. And then I'm going to use the arrows on my keyboard. And just so you know, if you hold down the shift key while you move your arrows, it moves in bigger increments. So I'm going to move this up until the letter is just up off the stage. All right, so this is my initial animation. Okay, now in frame 31, I want also another motion tween. So now I'm going to either place, Control, click, create motion tween, and I want this one to last to frame number 60, I think. Hang on. Nope, actually to 45, not to 60. So I'm going to insert a keyframe here in 45, and now I'm going to position my playhead over 45, and I'm going to, whoops, select my letter, and I'm going to move it down below the stage. Now, the reason I'm using the arrows on the keyboard instead of just dragging it with my mouse is because the arrows make sure that it moves in a straight line. Okay, so previewing the animation right now, that's what it looks like. Okay, now this is what we're going to do to make this a little bit more cool than just falling in a straight line. Position your cursor, your arrow, somewhere in between frames 1 and 30. We're going to use our motion editor, and if you don't see your motion editor, you're going to go to the window menu and go to motion editor. You have a lot of things in here, but if you scroll down, you're going to find an area at the bottom that says eases. You may have to click on that little triangle to expand it, okay? And we want to click on that plus sign because we want to add the ease that's called bounce in. So click on that. Then, because we have now made this bounce in ease, we're going to go up here to the top where it says basic motion, and on this drop down menu, bounce in is now there. It wasn't there before, but it is now. And see how it applied it all the way down. So now if I go back to my timeline and frame 1, see how it bounces right there on that guide that I put, because that's where that keyframe is stopping it. So it's going down and it's bouncing twice. And then now here, if we put our cursor or our arrow somewhere in between this next two keyframes, the second tween, we can go to our properties panel and we can say we want it to rotate one time counterclockwise. Okay? Now again, if we play this, whoops, from the beginning, we have the bounce in and then it rotates off the stage. It's kind of cool. Okay, now obviously we want to do that to every letter. Now what's nice about Flash is it does a whole lot of this work for us now. So what we're going to do is we are going to insert a keyframe in 31 for each of these. Okay, now if you click and drag, notice how it's selecting frame 31 of all of the remaining layers. I'm going to hit F6, and that's going to mark this spot where all those letters should be. Then I'm going to move my playhead over to frame 1, and I'm going to select each one of those layers, those keyframes, and I'm going to use my shift and my arrows to move those letters up so that they're just off the stage, matching or aligned with the first one. Okay? Now, if I click on this tween, this first tween of the first letter, notice how it selects just frame 1 through 30. If I control click on it, notice I have the option copy motion. I can then click and drag the remaining ones, and I can do control paste motion. And notice now it has applied the same bounce in to the rest of the letters. I'm going to repeat that by doing it for this second tween, copy motion, and then I'm going to click and drag so I select all of those frames at once, and paste motion. and again, bounce in, rotate off. Now, that's pretty neat on its own. However, we have something that we can do to make this better. We want to stagger the letters so that they all come 10 frames after the first one. So if I click on the R, notice it selects all of the frames. And if I click and drag, I can drag so that that keyframe starts in frame 10. Click on the next layer. And remember, it's a click and drag. That means you click and hold it while you drag. And there I go to frame 20. Whoops. And frame 30. Frame 40. 50. 60. And of course, if you have more letters than I have, then you would go to 70, 80, etc., etc. Okay? So now back to the beginning. Now our letters are staggered as they're falling and bouncing and falling off. All right. Now, what would make this even better is if we made it look like these had a shadow, so that when they bounced here, it looked like there was a shadow. Okay? So what I'm going to do, and again, I want you to notice how you click and drag so you can select multiple frames. I click and hold. Whoops. Let's try that again. Click and hold, cooperate, and drag. And I'm going to drag so that I am selecting all of the frames in this animation from 1 through, what is that, 104. Then I am going to control click and I'm going to choose copy frames. Now we're going to put this into a symbol, another symbol that's a movie clip. Instead of doing a modify convert to movie clip, I'm going to do insert new symbol. I'm going to call this letters movie. It's going to be a movie clip. I'm going to click OK and it automatically takes me inside that symbol, where I can go and I can control click on frame 1 and choose paste frames, and all of those letters appear with the motion tweens that were applied to them. Now if I go back to scene 1, I'm going to create a new layer and I'm going to go ahead and call this letters movie. And right now it doesn't really matter where it goes, but I'm going to go ahead and drag it to the bottom. And in my library, whoops, that I just closed, you'll see letters movie. I'm going to drag it onto my stage, and I'm going to use the arrows. I did a pretty good job lining them up the first time, but they're going to be right there at that stage, overlapping that initial K that I had in there. Then I'm going to delete all of the other layers except for that new one. Okay, now if I command return, you're going to see that that's still the same animation. It's just that now that's all in a movie clip on its own. Okay, so now I'm going to create another layer. This new layer is going to be called shadow. And I'm going to drag it below the letters layer, and I am going to copy that frame and I'm going to paste it into the shadow one. With this one on the shadow, I am going to go to modify, transform, flip vertical. And now if I move my letter down, notice how it's basically upside down. And I'm going to move this well below the stage. And you're going to go ahead and pause, and you're going to have to, when you do this, you're going to next go to the second movie to finish.